Maneuver warfare existed long before static warfare of World War I, but you see it introduced to break the static lines, at least in Western Europe, as well as Eastern Europe. You see that reintroduced, maneuver warfare that is, at the end of World War I. By the close of World War II, America has become an undisputed master of maneuver warfare in all of its forms. Let's talk today about maneuver, specifically the meeting engagement. I'm Dr. Christopher Larsen, a veteran of the U.S. Army Infantry, founder of One Shepherd Leadership Institute, and author of Small Unit Tactical Doctrine. Inherent in the concept of maneuver warfare is maneuver. Woo! Really big, right? Well, no, but it is big because what it's saying is that through maneuver warfare, a commander doesn't want to get decisively engaged until the time or place of his or her choosing. Remember that decisively engaged means that two opponents are locked in battle and can't extract. One is going to be the winner, one is going to be the loser, will be the vanquished. And so a commander doesn't want to do that until they see the battle will go in their favor. And so they retain maneuver. That is, they don't become committed to that battle. And so this is a really critical piece because let's take static warfare as it, in juxtaposition of maneuver warfare, right? We have static lines that run for perhaps hundreds and hundreds of miles. They may be as close as just 50 or 100 meters away from each other, the enemy opponents, and they can stay there for very long periods of time. So maneuver warfare is rather the opposite of that, if that makes any sense. It is that they are not in fixed positions until they choose to be. A meeting engagement. We've talked about movement to contact in a previous video. A meeting engagement is like a movement to contact on a very big operational scale. And what I mean by that, yes, doctrine says small units can have a meeting engagement, and I think that's true. You can bump into each other quite accidentally. I will say that the meeting engagement tends to be a planned operation with movement to contact as the tactic of the meeting engagement, and you'll see a lot of similarities here. So a meeting engagement is an enemy force that is moving in, say, a direction. Great, we've got that, we're moving in a direction. And we're going to come across another enemy force. Very likely, but not absolutely, very likely that enemy is also moving in a direction. Okay, good, they're going, we're going. We very likely know of each other in the general vicinity, but we don't know each other's status. That is, I don't know necessarily their size. I may not know their exact location. I don't know what action or what their intent is. I have some idea of their combat power relative to my own. But nonetheless, we're both moving through a given area of operations, and we come into contact with each other. We will size each other up. We'll do a little bit of a dance and whatever we have to do. We send out those, if you'll recall in movement to contact, we send out those vanguard forces to try to develop this situation. So whether this person continues to move, turns to face us, stops and defends, or even turns and run, what we want to do is we want our main body, our main force, to engage with them at a time and a place, i.e. terrain, that is very suiting for us, all right, or very suitable for us. It's in our benefit. When we do that, once we start to fight them, we need to do an envelopment, okay? So this is our main effort, but we will have part of our force envelop. And there's, of course, there's different types of envelopment. This is the sign for just, a ground force that is enveloping. Right? And yeah, by the way, we say a ground force. Could this be a MAGTF or could this be a marine to shore operations? Absolutely. There's no doubt about it. This applies in amphibious warfare as well. What we want to do now is hit them with an envelopment so that one size continues to shape the success of the main effort by robbing them of many different things. It can fix them in battle. It can hit their rear area and cut them off from supplies. It can just make them fight in two directions when they're not prepared to fight in two directions. And did I say two? Well, you can actually do a double envelopment. This is sometimes called the bull's horns, right? And I'm going to show you the symbol for a different kind of double envelopment. There we go. That little cross over there, whether it goes up or whether it goes down, that little crossover means typically an air insertion. Okay, so it might be air assault or it might be an airborne force that does the envelopment. So there you go. You've got a ground-borne envelopment, you've got an airborne envelopment, but nonetheless, we're looking at a double envelopment here. These enveloping forces want to fix the enemy. They want to cut off their rear supplies. They want to commit them to battle with the main force when we think we're going to win. And or, as this force turns to run away bravely, let me grab my trusty, if they turn to run away bravely, you now have a defeat in detail. That is this. Let's say, you know what, we'll go ahead and use the bad guy symbol. And they are now broken into their smaller elements. Doesn't matter what they are. We can artillery, cavalry, infantry. So they're broken into their smaller elements. And what they're doing is they're now trying to escape and evade. This is their route of egress, right? They're headed this direction, away from us, because yay, we're winning. Now these enveloping forces really do play a critical role, as if they didn't before. They certainly did. Now they're going to fix individually. This one might fix that force. This airborne force might fix this infantry force. They're going to pin them, commit these smaller units to an engagement. And then the larger element comes. So let's play a numbers game. Let's say that collectively this is, I don't know, let's say 100,000. The enemy has 100,000 force, roughly 25, 25, 25, 25. Play a game with me here. Let's say that we also have 100,000 and that we've got 60,000 in our main force and 20,000 in each one of our enveloping forces. It really doesn't matter. What I'm trying to show you is that this is 100,000 stretched out. So if they're being pinned by pinned and engaged in, into decisive combat by these forces that are similar size, this 60,000 isn't smashing into 100,000. That's 100,000 here. This 60,000 is smashing into just 25,000. And you can see who will, especially if they're in retrograde, especially if they're in their lines of egress falling back, they're very likely to be cut off and either destroyed or taken prisoner. Likewise, as soon as we finish this one piece of the enemy, these two are decisively engaged with our enveloping forces, so now 20 plus 60, 80,000 fall on this one, 20 plus 60, 80,000 fall on this one, and we continue to go down, and that's how you defeat the enemy in detail in a meeting engagement. Here's our meeting engagement. This is how maneuver warfare was reintroduced at the end of World War I and really perfected. It really matures itself during World War II. You see that play out in Korea. And so both sides. Our opponents were doing the same thing to us as we were doing to them. But this is how war and maneuver warfare really plays out. And you see why in the movement to contact video, I made the claim that it's the most common type of attack. It is, because we very rarely know everything about our enemy, about our opponent. They very rarely know everything about us. And we are constantly sizing each other up in a very murky, muddled battle space where the battle has to develop as we go in. That's a very uncomfortable situation. You have to embrace impermanence and the unknown here, okay? This is where the Marine Corps developed the 70% solution. That's kind of a philosophy that says once you get to nominally 70%, whatever that your metrics are, that you start movement, that you start the battle, because of course no battle survives, or no plan that is, survives the first shot. But we can adjust from that plan, so it's very critical that we plan. And this is the fluidity of maneuver warfare. Can all of this be a defense? And the answer is yes. Yes, it actually can. Let me grab my handy dandy eraser here. Let's say the enemy, rather than running, decides to put up fortified position, which would be common. If they found something, they said, hey, this is pretty good terrain, we think we can hold them, then what you have is, we would go into the same sort of thing. But actually, now that I think about it, even it would be they could go into a defensive position, or we could go into a defensive position. Either way it works, this becomes the hammer and anvil, all right? Rather than both sides moving, crashing together, or one running from the other and trying to, and the other one in pursuit, this becomes hammer and anvil. The point is that the anvil is wherever that defense is, theirs or ours. And then the hammer is the enveloping forces that strike. So you might very well hear meeting engagements referred to as Hamel and anvil tactics or strategies, double envelopment or envelopment. All of these things are very much related, not just to meeting engagements then, but also to maneuver warfare, okay?